Hello, today I'm going to talk about the creative energy of the source that is flowing through us. So what is today's content? Well, I'm going to talk about the creative energy of source in detail, some basic explanations, and some more advanced. Then about some symptoms of holding back this creative energy. And for the last, something about channeling, or the so-called also mediumship. So let's go, first things first. The creative energy of the source in detail. Like I said in the second lecture, I think, uh, we are a kind of multidimensional being. Right now, if we, from top down, at the highest location, so to speak, in the fifth dimension is located our higher self. Below it, it is located this backup level, still below mental and emotional body, still below etheric body, and the lowest position is located this physical body. The sum of the physical body, etheric body, and mental and emotional body is composing out of human being. So between the self and the human being is this backup level. Okay. The higher self is located in this fifth dimension, or the source. And from the higher self, top down, is flowing this creative energy. Something appointed as also as life force that is giving us life. And also our attention of the higher self is flowing through this mind into this physical reality. But today we're going to talk about the creative energy. So, okay, now they follow some points. From the most basic to the most advanced things. First, so every human being, animal, plant, stone, etc. is permeated by the life force or the creative energy which is part of all that is or God. I call God simply as all that is. The second thing, this creative energy isn't only permeating, empowering, or holding us alive, but it is also intended to be transformed into the physical action, into an inspiring and exciting working and socializing. Next, the more we are listening to our inspiration, excitement, intuition, the sixth sense, the inner voice, or the so-called signpost of the higher self, the less inner resistance to life we are growing, and more of the creative energy is flowing through us. Further, if you aren't capable to transform this creative energy into an inspiring and exciting work and socializing, and if we cannot cope with life challenges, then we are generating this inner resistance within ourselves. Energy is stagnating, we become irritable, restless, scattered, etc. So now you have probably realized what is the dynamics of energies between this creative energy, our inner resistance, and inspiring work and socializing. However, because we cannot indefinitely holding back this energy, we then often unconsciously drain it in different ways, a great majority of people. Do you have a clue where most people redirect this energy, creative energy, and mostly unconsciously? Well, the vast majority of people unconsciously drain this energy into the excessive sport, partying, into unnecessary quarrels, and especially into the too often sexual intercourses and or masturbation. And other addiction where we are physically active. I mean physically active addiction, not psychological. Physical. This creative energy must be transformed into the physical actions because we're located in a physical world. Okay, as for realize that this creative energy is actually the light of the self. It is the higher vibration. While the clutter in our backup level, this poor beliefs and definitions, patterns, and so on, is the opposite of this. Thus, darkness, the lower vibration. And what is this causing? Of course, divergence, polarity, and the consequent restlessness, irritability, and the need to quickly drain this creative energy, most often with addiction to sex and masturbation. Interesting, isn't it? How many people are aware of this? So we have this polarity, and so we become restless, irritable, and so on. And from this is coming the need for procreation. But mostly to drain it because we are unhappy with ourselves and life. There are some gray zones that I'm not going to explain a little more. Well, in taking into account that a vast majority of people are living in a permanent inner resistance day by day, you can also realize why is our planet Earth so overcrowded. especially in poor countries where is poorly taken care for contraception. If you have much inner resistance, then you're obsessed, addicted to sex and procreation, and if there is no contraception, now it is quite clear the picture for you. However, it is necessary to know that we are in such a way losing this valuable creative energy so that it is also dropping our creativity. We are becoming increasingly apathetic, there is no zeal, we can even fall into the so-called burnout. We are becoming empty. we are too we have too much drained this energy in the things that are not the best potential futures for us. As for realize that this creative energy of the source needs a certain time in order to recharge us again, usually slowly during the shallow sleep in the morning. Although the recharge can be accelerated also by meditation or by simple standing still when we are allowing to the source. So, the recharge can take place in different ways. Mostly for most people during the shallow sleep in the morning. If you might notice, sometimes you are in some kind of transient state of being in the morning. You don't know where you are located, for example, or this world and in other worlds. You are somewhere in between, a little out of phase of this physical body, human being. And then the recharge is very quick. You can also recharge it by simply by meditation or simple standing still, so that you grant this energy that is flowing through you, and so you are recharging yourself. Next, when and now that you know this mechanism of divergence of the creative energy and the clutter, you can also realize that for your elimination of the restlessness and irritability, it is not necessary to empty this energy, but simply to let go the other half, so to clean the clutter in your backup level, the other pole. But of course, this is often requiring a long work on ourselves, personal growth, spirituality, spiritual development. You have this polarity. A great majority of people cannot deal with themselves, so they drain the other pole, the creative energy, and the things that are not the best potentials for them. To reprogram yourself, to dissipate this old clutter, it's a process that lasts. Further, and now you might also realize why it came to spontaneous abstinence from sex and masturbations and to celibacy at certain spiritual teachers, because they have cleaned their clutter and are able to hold the higher vibrational light in themselves. But of course, the attainment of this state isn't only depending on the absence of clutter, but also on the flow rate of this creative energy that someone is able to concurrently transform into physical action. Because we are different in this, how is the flow? We have different flow rates. It depends from person to person. Further, if it comes to abstinence at some people, even if it comes to abstinence at some people, this doesn't mean that humanity won't procreate in the future. No, we can always procreate, but from the basic needs for union and reproduction, and that and that and this is that minimum need for sexual intercourses, which is much smaller than you might think. In fact, here learn that already the difference of vibrations between the creative energy and the physical body alone is causing that minimal or basic need for union and reproduction. A great deal of this sexual lust comes from inner resistance, and a very small percent, few percents, come from this basic need. So we have these gray zones. Because the higher vibrational creative energy goes through this dense physical body, and this is still a polarity, and this is causing this minimum lust, the need for reproduction. Okay. Further, people who are most of the time in contentment, peace, happiness, and above all in inspiration, excitement over a certain primary activity, hobby, be it a profession, very rarely think about sex. In any case, you probably heard about such people. There are non-stop in some, like some businessmen. They are very well channeling this creative energy, and so there is less energy for other things like uh, sex and masturbation and other addictions to sport and so on, partying and so on. So sexuality that doesn't arise from our inner resistance can be also called eccentric sex, which originate from the basic need for union and reproduction. Further realize that we can become sexually active already in elementary school. Why? Because we then, from a child who practically has no clutter, turn into a teenager who has been caught by the clutter and stimulation from surroundings, to whom arises the need for masturbation, even despite being perhaps unable to reach orgasm or ejaculation. So, this need comes from the elementary school. This need is potentiated in elementary school because we are then saturated with many negative programs, clutter, so inner resistance, lower vibration. That doesn't go along with the higher vibration of the creative energy. And so it come uh, too soon, let's say, to this need for sex and masturbation. Okay, further. In contrast, if we take animals, which have practically no clutter, they are such as they are, it arises the need for a greater reproduction due to the simplicity of their minds, as they are unable always to ground that accelerated creative energy in any other way than often reproducing the cells. This creative energy is flowing through also through animals, and so they have a very simple mind. They cannot create something like this computer. Uh, and when there is too much creative energy, it goes into a reproduction. Yes, they could do some creative things like if you take for example a bird, he's chirping, he's strutting, he's let's say dancing. Some they have some dance when pairing together, but this is very little. And so when in certain seasons this flow rate of creative energy accelerates to them, it arises as a need for reproduction of certain species. Okay, further. As for next, do you perhaps know what is actually happening during sexual intercourse and masturbation, specifically during an orgasm, right at the time of orgasm? Well, during sexual intercourses and masturbation, we are accelerating the recharging of this creative energy in us, like with meditation, but faster. Yes. But this is only when we have a sexual intercourse or masturbation without orgasm. Yes, because with orgasm or ejaculation, we are again emptying a great part of this creative energy. So that we are after a sexual intercourse or masturbation for some time completely without energy, even if we are in a very relaxed state of peace and bliss. And now I'll explain why. So with sexual intercourse, you are greatly uh, accelerating this creative energy, and then you are full of energy. And when it comes to orgasm, ejaculation, you empty almost all. So it can be for some, if you have addiction to sex, it can be a never-ending circle, some dark never-ending circle. Especially even haven't found some inspiring primary activity, hobby, and so on. Okay. And if we go even further into the exploration of this creative energy and sex, we realize yet that the time after the orgasm, is the state above the backup level, thus closer to our higher self. Like we said, backup level is in between of the human being and the higher self. And when we go to orgasm, we go higher and higher awareness, we are nearing with our consciousness on mental and emotional band, then to the backup level, and even above to the higher self. And the higher self is located in this fifth dimension where there is a lasting, the fundamental state of of this fifth dimension of the higher self is inner peace and bliss. And so we are nearing this higher worth, higher self, and so we are this inner peace and bliss, but just for some time. And then we fall again lower if you're not working on yourself. And this is another reason why people are so craving after sexual intercourses and masturbation, is after the orgasm they temporarily rise up over the inner resistance toward life, so that they can later also work or function much easier. However, only when the new creative energy starts flowing through them, which however requires quite some time to refill some. I mean, it's a never-ending circle. It can be this if you fall too much in sexual intercourses and masturbation. So you are recharging, when having masturbation intercourse, then you go higher, higher, you have ejaculation, orgasm, you're this inner peace and bliss, then you fall again in the lower state where there is no creative energy, and then it disappears again, this inner peace and bliss, because you have fallen down, and then this clutter comes again to you. So, further, the state that is experienced after the orgasm is also experienced by the enlightened people and already throughout the day, because they have so cleaned their clutter that they are most of the day in the inner peace and bliss, at least contentment, and these good states. Further, if we go even deeper by exploring this energy, do you know why it occurs in impotence or the inability to achieve orgasm? Well, the impotence occurs when someone has so much clutter in the backup level, or when someone is so aligned to his higher self that he simply cannot break through the backup level and go closer to the higher self, to the orgasm. I realize also that in cases when a person has a lot of clutter, it also more often comes to sadistic and masochistic tendencies during sexual intercourses, because the clutter is reflected onto the physical level. You're charging, you go higher in awareness, and you're nearing backup level where there is a lot of clutter, and then it's released into the physical action. Okay. In the opposite case, when a love couple has properly cleaned their clutter, then it comes to something completely different, to sexual intercourses that doesn't derive from inner resistance, irritability, and restlessness toward life, but from the desire based on the accelerated creative energy from the basic need for union or reproduction. So it goes for the so-called tantric sex. And it goes for a difference that can be once recognized when you're higher in awareness. So when you're of higher awareness, at least spiritual awakened and possibly beyond, you can distinguish between the need for sex or masturbation, if it goes for any resistance or if it's just this minimum need. You can distinguish. It's very clear to you. And of course, the same applies for masturbation of its kind. You know the difference when you're in resistance or when it is just this basic need. Further, still the last interesting thing. Do you know why men often wake up with a hard penis in the morning? Well, I realize that the recharging with this creative energy is very fast, especially during the shallow sleep in the morning. But since it is the sexual organ of the lowest vibration, it is also the divergence or contrast with the high vibrations. They are the highest. This high vibration creative energy is flowing to the lowest vibration, and so we have a lot of polarity divergence. And consequentially, this is resulting in the excitement of the sexual organ. It can even come to ejaculation during sleeping. Yes. In relation to this, also realize that even though you have just a little of clutter in the backup level, you can, no matter that, still experience the spontaneous ejaculation and even a possible orgasm during sleeping, especially if you have been very excited or inspired about something during the day. In fact, the daily excitement and inspiration are further accelerating the creative energy through you, so that it can later, over that something, even came to you. What a symbolism! uh, I I had an example like this. I think 2 years ago, I was watching a lecture where, a autistic person was something uh, inspiring the crowd, and I was so inspired over him. And then I got a challenge information. This be surprised what is going to happen in the in the sleeping. So during the night, I woke up and I simply ejaculated. So so this is how things works. How things work. Further, now I'm going to mention some symptoms of holding back this creative energy. It's not good to hold back this energy, of course. First symptom, the most well known. You're experiencing occasional restlessness or irritability. Okay, this I already said, but now I'm going into details. You experience occasional restlessness and irritability. It occurs mainly when the creative energy starts accelerating through you and you do not know how to best ground this energy into physical action. Accordingly, it also arises the need to drain this energy, be it with the too often sexual intercourses and or masturbation, be it with the excessive sport, partying, or other addiction where we are physically active. This is the first most frequent symptom. The next symptom, you're experiencing restless legs and hands, especially during the night. Many people are experiencing this. I don't know if the classical medicine can explain this. Well, this is my explanation. Why arises this restless legs and hands, especially during the night? It occurs when the creative energy of the source is accelerating through you, but you haven't yet stabilized it into yourself, so that it is due to the invading of your lower vibration etheric layers felt as resistance, tamping, and restlessness on the critical extremities on your feet and hands. And so you'd prefer to shake this energy off. If you experience restless legs in the middle of the night, actually you would like to run to shake these energies off. And it can help because you speed up the creative energy and push away for a time this negative, lower vibrational energies of the surroundings and also of you. Because of the surroundings, the environment, the great majority of people is very poorly aligned. There is a lot of negative energy, and when you go higher in awareness, you have more light, more high vibration energy, and then you have the contrast. Even if you clean your clutters, there is then this contrast between you and the surroundings. So you go high in awareness, the energy is flowing, but still this your aura. This backup level is influencing our physical body and the aura. Your most inner point of aura is the most associated with you, with your backup level, but the further you go, the more is transitioning into the surroundings, and there are the lower vibrations, especially if you're very high in awareness. Further, a very interesting thing. And since our legs are related to socializing and our hands to working, is this symptom also reminding you to shake away your old circles of people and your works which are no longer inspiring for you? Or, in other words, dedicate more time to inspiring work and socializing. Uh, Hands are related to work and legs with socializing. If you have troubles with hands, more inspiring work. Maybe change a job. And if you have restless legs, more socializing with people of your vibration, new circles of friends. At this same time, I also advise you yet not to cross too often your hands and feet, as this is obstructing the flow of the creative energy to the extremities. So this energy is flowing through us, and it is the most compact in our body here, but in the extremities, very little. It's more dissipated, and so there you feel the difference between you and the surroundings more. At this symptom, I advise you yet also to temporarily have sexual intercourses or masturbation without orgasm or ejaculation, since this is also decreasing the symptom of the restless legs and hands. With this, you'll further accelerate the recharging of this creative energy in you, and thus displace at least some of the lower vibrational layers away from you. But it's very difficult to have sex or masturbation without orgasm or ejaculation. But this is the picture that I am showing to you, the dynamics of energies. Experiment with this and you'll see the results. Further, the next symptom, you are experiencing the overheating of your physical body. It occurs when you are growing too much in a resistance toward life, thus to certain life situation, people, or just things. In fact, just it can an electrical resistor overheat when the electricity is flowing through it, so we can also overheat when we are resisting the creative energy of the source that is flowing through us. And this symptom, you may also experience excessive sweating and even a fever for several days. As you well know, how can we suddenly sweat and overheat during a certain task or situation when something goes wrong? And even though it happened at the lowest temperatures, something goes wrong, you do it something, and then everything uh, goes wrong as you have visualized it. And then you are in worry, stress, in resistance especially, and this energy cannot be destroyed. Energy, like it's saying this law in physics, energy cannot be destroyed or created out of nothing, and created out of nothing can be just transformed into one form or another. And so this kind of energy is then transformed into overheating heat, because you were doing something, then you blocked this inspiration, excitement, and you're just observing, visualizing negatively the outcome, and this energy cannot be stopped immediately. So it is converted mostly into heat. And if you insist day by day in some form of inner resistance, you can get a fever, yes. The next symptom, you are experiencing a mild and occasional twitching or trembling of your extremities and neck, especially before falling asleep, like this. But it's not painful, it's not annoying, it's even fine. But this one symptom, it occurs when the higher energies of the source are accelerating through you, and especially if you are holding them back due to certain outdated beliefs and definitions that are creating inner resistance. Certain trembling, for example, during a public appearance, it is also referring to the creative energy of the soul that you are holding back due to certain outdated beliefs and definitions. And this is also reflected as an impoverished speech or humor of the speaker. Well, from here, you can also realize what is the main cause for shaking type health issues, like Alzheimer or Parkinson disease. If you've been for years and years resisting the higher self, the creative energy of the soul, so don't do this. Don't keep away this creative energy. Transform it into some form of inspiring work and socializing. For example, before I start with the lectures, this creative energy is recharging me, and right when I start, it's difficult to redirect it. And so, in the beginning, it's a little cumbersome, but when I'm able to put it into some form of creative, when I'm able to put it in this form of creative talking, it is also a physical action. Then the flow is flowing very steady. It's simple. There are no troubles. But if you're throughout the entire lecture restless and irritable, then they have much inner resistance, poor beliefs and definitions. Okay. Further, the next symptom, you're experiencing insomnia or the spontaneous waking in the middle of the night. It occurs mainly at the higher states of awareness, but again when the creative energy of the source starts accelerating through you and you don't know how to ground it into physical action. In fact, this symptom we aren't talking about the insomnia out of our stress and worries, because at this symptom is our head quite empty. We even don't have any real tiredness, although we would like to sleep. So it's different things. It doesn't go about worries and stress. I mean, yeah, okay. However, this symptom may also express that we simply don't need so much sleep as in the past, so that you'll eventually get used to less sleep. In fact, as a civilization, we are transitioning to an age when people of higher awareness are going to sleep less and less. Yes, many spiritual teachers are they very little sleep. They have much this inner this creative energy, and it's keeping them in this world. Okay. And for the last symptom, you're experiencing a pressure in your head, the occasional headaches, and a faster and irregular heartbeat. This is the sign that the creative energy of the source has started accelerating through the channel, causing turbulence when colliding against your clutter, this backup level. This symptom is also the cause of the quick skipping of your attention between the dense and subtle matter, thus between the surroundings, your body, and your inner world of thoughts and emotions. You can simulate this transition of attention. Put attention to a certain thing, then you go to visualization in the future and past, and this very quickly, yes, it arises in regular breathing and a heartbeat. For example, when you see some person and you fall in love, let's say for the first time, it goes for this attraction at first time. You can see the person, physicality, then you go into visualization, future, a possible wedding, and you're doing quickly this, and even unconsciously. You're not aware of this. And so this makes this irregular heartbeat, also heartbeat and breathing. At this accelerated creative energy and the increased heartbeat, it is also felt a strong pulsating in your veins, which is felt and visible especially in the veins on your temples here. For example, check my lecture about dreams, but the Slovenian version, uh, it's the third lecture. Yeah, the third lecture in Slovenian. They were very visible, this veins, because I was in greater creative energy before I started the lecture. It depends from day to day. To this symptom, it can also rise the tamping or pulsating of your teeth. Yes, this creative energy is flowing through us, is flowing this nervous system, and especially the nervous system of the teeth is very sensitive. And even if your teeth are okay, you have no feeling stopping in your teeth, or you're just or your teeth are simply healthy, you can still feel the pulsating of teeth, but it's not very painful, but it's strange. Why? What is wrong? You just have to adapt to this higher energy. The nervous system has to adapt to these higher energies. Okay, now the last chapter, something about channeling. Now that you have learned about the creative energy of the source, get familiar yet with the so-called channeling or mediumship. So what is channeling actually? Well, the flow of the creative energy doesn't include only the so-called life force, as it also represents the source of our inspiration and excitement, and above all, it contains various information from the higher worlds and other parallel worlds, parallel realities, sent by our higher self and other self too. And exactly this for information that is included in this flow rate of the creative energy represents the so-called channeling. This information often go beyond the perception in here and the experiences and knowledge in this physical world. It transcends this world because it is coming from other worlds, other parallelities, other dimensions and densities. And if you speak this information, then we're talking about channeling. About voice channeling. There are different kinds of channeling. So, Channeling is essentially the process of obtaining knowledge from the higher selves and the collective consciousness or the so-called oversouls. Just a sum of of souls or the so-called higher selves form the so-called oversoul or overself. Which okay, so channeling is essentially the process of obtaining knowledge from the higher selves and the collective consciousness which have the extensive experience throughout all that is. Most often the channeled information is a revelation that is relating to the evolution of humankind, but especially to the advanced spiritual and also scientific areas. So channeling is a complete commitment to the higher self. In short, it is a commitment to the source or God that is abundant so in knowingness and so in unconditional love. And you can speak some higher different truth, experience them from other worlds. What regards myself and my lectures, I started with reading many books. Then I included my own experiences in this. Then I included experiences from my dreams. And for the last, I included my channeling. I ask a question, for example, and then the answer comes. Sometimes sooner or other times later. But the most enjoyment someone asks me some question, and then the answer comes through me. Because if a person asks me something, this energy is going more quicker. It is grounded by the person that is asking, and this is the best thing for voice channeling, that someone is asking you questions. So here I'm mostly reading, which is for me easier than just speaking, because here is just the camera and it's not the same as a person is here. For me, it works so I'm reading a lot. But when I have a lecture live, then it can be just another completely another thing if people are asking, of course. A very important thing, how is working this channeling. So a person who is channeling is a kind of medium, intermediary, or messenger that is bringing information from other realities. However, today's channeling is showing itself also as the channeled psychic prediction, as channeled writing, as channeled singing, as channeled dancing, as channeled art, and other ways of expressing, where there is no excessive role of our reasoning or thinking. This is very important. As for channeling, it applies that the more you are at something thinking, the less you are channeling. Therefore, the channeled information is coming out of some kind of nothingness, or better said, out of some mixture of inner peace, excitement, or inspiration. So this answer that I'm giving, some people that are asking, I haven't come to these answers by reason, by mind. They come straight to my mouth, and I can be very surprised at the answer because I heard it for the first time. But now that I have a lot of knowledge, yes, things are repeating, of course. There is less new, but there is always new, something new. So, as for channeling applies that the more you're at something thinking, the less you are channeling. Therefore, the channeled information is coming out of some kind of nothingness, or better said, out of some kind of mixture of inner peace, excitement, and inspiration. And our channeling will be the best, the purest, and the most authentic when we will have as little as possible of clutter in our backup level. In fact, the clutter, especially in the form of poor beliefs and definitions, is disturbing or distorting the flow of information through the channel. Nowadays, there are quite many young people that are channeling, but they have difficulties because they haven't cleaned this clutter that they have, enough clutter, and so the information that's flowing to them can be distorted. When you clean in this backup level that is in between, then the flow rate is faster, more clean and clearer. Further, channeling comes most often to the fore spontaneously, and especially if you are devoted to our inspiration, excitement, intuition, inner voice, the sixth sense, and other signposts of the self. Anyone is channeling to a certain extent, of course, most often when we are perceiving unusual and good ideas at the time when we are allowing the most. This happens frequently during carefree strolls, but also during intense creative outpourings. When we say that we are in the zone, when we fall in the zone, in some hobby, especially, or in just some other profession, job. It can happen to you that you have some challenge in your work in computer, you cannot come to a solution, then you have this inner resistance, stress and worries, there's a lot of clutter, then you go on a stroll, on a walk, this clutter disappears, the resistance go away for a moment, and then is space. And then the creative energy again is flowing, and so you have the answer often. When you have too much clutter, then much more difficult. But channeling can also take place in the form of an inner conversation with our higher self, with other selves, and our guides. Without it taking place within ourselves, and it is not schizophrenia in the form of voices. This is another thing. But if you don't know this difference, it can be very troublesome for you. I'm going to talk about these symptoms that are related to rising awareness, symptoms of awakening, spiritual awakening, symptoms of light in the next two lectures. Many interesting symptoms that I have experienced. As an interesting point, also the best prophets for history were channeling, if they didn't already get the message through other intelligent beings or simply out of their dreams. These prophets out of the Bible, for example, in our history, were mostly channeling. Some they get message to their other intelligent beings, non-terrestrials, and some out of their dreams. But if they had too much clutter in their back lever, the information that was channeled was distorted. Okay, this is all, but I may say something more about these types of channeling. Okay, there are different kinds of channeling: voice channeling, and this channeled writing, prediction, psychic prediction. Okay, channeled thinking, channeled dancing, channeled art. I'll give you an example of channeled dancing. I saw this for the first time when I was working as a volunteer in India, and it's very strange for the first time because there is almost no preparation for this kind of dance. Because if you are preparing, this is the reason. Mind, techniques. There are no techniques. This is channeling. It goes through you. It's very unpredictable and surprising. And so when they were dancing in pairs, and it was very interesting. They were dancing and twisting one with the other like snakes. It's very unpredictable. So if you take another example, these classic types of dance like say salsa and so on, cha-cha, they have steps, techniques, reason, mind. So where is where it occurs most channeling in channel it, this dancing, or in let's say rumba samba and so on, of course in channel it, but you can because there is no preparation, no intellectual thinking. But so you can see the most of this channel dancing when you go to some party, wild party, because there are no techniques. People just live to the higher self and are dancing. And of course, this in resistance there is practically none because they drink alcohol for many. So they are the best channeling this dance. Also, channeled art. Also in art there is these techniques, methods of writing. I mean of picturing. And if there are a lot of techniques, methods, then there is less channeling. When there is less methods, techniques, there is more. This is a more challenging art. Okay, basically, okay, this is all for today. The next two lectures are about the symptoms of arising our awareness. So have a good time. Bye bye.